In this lesson, we're going to go over doing a camera walkthrough through your house. Right now, I have a three-story building, and I'm going to do a camera walkthrough through about most of it for the point of this tutorial. But this is just to kind of get you started on understanding how you go about making your camera walkthrough. So for starters, I'm going to unfreeze everything. I'm going to hide my third and second layer and my roof so I can see my first floor. My first floor is where I want to focus on right now. And you can see I have several rooms in here. So I'm going to make the camera walk through a few of these rooms and then go up the stairs to the second floor. So to start, I'm going to make a path for the camera to follow. So I'm going to go to Shapes, go to the Line tool. I'm going to switch to my top view by hitting T on the keyboard. And I want my camera to start walking through here, but I want my camera to start somewhere around here. So I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to call this Camera Path. And I'm going to start my camera right about here. So I'm just going to click and start clicking in different areas where I want my camera to go. Now, when you're making this, you want to make sure you make your path linear. And what I mean by that is you click and let go on the actual points that you're making. Because if you click and drag, you're going to get this little arc right here, and it's going to curve your point and make a Bezier corner. You don't want to do that right off the back. You want to save that for later. So I'm going to undo that and just delete that path and start over. So I'm just going to left click, let go, left click, let go, left click, let go. So that is the pattern you want to go for making your initial camera path. Now I'm going to make this a bit messy. This is going to kind of look more like Scribble Scrabble than anything. So I'm just going to click in a bunch of points here and there of generally the path that I want my camera to follow. So something like this. And it's going to end up in the garage over here. And this is where I'm going to stop it, right here. So let's take a look at this. If I go back to my perspective view and look down, I can see that my actual line is on the floor. And that's okay. I can just bring it up on the z-axis a little bit. I'm going to bring it up to a height of about 48. And now I need to set my camera on this path. So I need to create a new camera. So to create a camera, go to Cameras. I'm going to use a free camera. Now, when I initially make this camera, I want to make it facing the direction that I want it to start going. And if I look at my view cube here, I can see that I'm facing toward the front. So I want my camera to be facing this direction. So I'm going to go to my orthographic front view by hitting F on the keyboard. And I'm going to go into wireframe, hitting F3. And I'm just going to click anywhere in here just to drop the camera. So my camera is facing this direction. And you can see that it's made my camera in the center where the grid is. So if I turn on the grid by hitting G on the keyboard, you can see there's my home grid. So it kind of put it in the center of the viewport. So I'm just going to move this back a little bit just so it's outside of the house. And I'm going to freeze certain things in here, like the outside area, so I don't make a mistake and select anything here. I just want to be able to select my doors because I am going to have to open up my doors when the camera goes through. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm just going to go through here and open my doors. Click through all of these, open this one. Like so. And last one here, open this door. All right, so all my doors are open, so now my camera can freely flow through on this line here. So selecting the camera, you're going to go to Animation, Constraints, Path Constraint. Now once you click this, you're going to get a little dotted line here, and it's going to want you to point to the path. So I'm going to select my path here. So once you highlight over the path, you see your little cursor turns to a crosshair, and it lets you know that I'm selected on line. So once you select the line, your camera is going to jump to the very first point where you click to start your line. So now my camera is actually on the path. Now if I look through this and I scrub up the timeline, you can see that the camera goes through and it follows the little path that I created. And it goes from frame 0 to 100. Because whatever you have your timeline set down to right here, it's going to be the initial time frame of your camera path. So at frame 0, you can see it's at 0% over here. At frame 100, it's at 100% on the path. So next up, I want to set up my viewports to be able to view my actual camera and be able to see my perspective view at the same time. So I'm going to go and change my viewports here. So I'm going to click on my little viewport tab here to change my layout. Now, if you're using a version less than 2013, you won't have this at all. So I'll show you how to get there. If you go to Active Degradation at the bottom, if you right click here, it'll pop up your viewport configuration menu, and then you can go to layout and you can change your layout in here. So I'm going to use this layout for top and bottom. So I'm going to select my camera for this top view, and for my bottom view, I want my perspective. I'm going to tell it OK. So now in the top view, I see what my camera sees. Now the first thing when you make a camera, always come to the viewport label for the camera and show save frames. So now this shows you exactly what your camera is seeing, the dimensions. And these dimensions are based on your output dimensions. So go to your render setup by hitting F10 on the keyboard. And I'm going to change my output size here to a standard HD format. So I'm going to go all the way down to this little drop down list to HD TV because this is the dimensions I want. 1280 by 720 is what I want. You can see my camera updated accordingly. So it's changing the aspect ratio up here. So now when I screw up the timeline, I can see what my camera is actually doing. But right now it's really hard to see anything because my camera is not actually following the path. So let's fix that. So with the camera object actually selected, you want to make sure you're on your motion tab. You want to make sure you're have position selected. Now if you're on anything else other than position, you see your settings down here will change. So make sure you're on position and you'll get this information here. You see on your position list you have your path constraint here. So if you scroll down, you can have all your parameters down here. So let's take a look at where the camera is now. Now I want to set my camera to follow the path. Now notice what happens when I click follow. My camera reorients itself. Now don't fret. This is a quick fix. You'll have to go to your axes here and realign it for the Y axis. So now my camera is reoriented to the right location. And I want you to note here that I have my camera on constant velocity. I want to keep this on. So now when I play through my animation, you can see my camera goes through and is actually turning when it gets to different rooms in here. So now my camera is a little bit too fast. If I play this, it's moving way too fast. So I need to extend my timeline out to actually match the speed that I actually want. So I'm going to go to my time configuration down here, and I'm going to set my end frame to about 500. And I'm going to move, with the camera still selected, I'm going to move the keyframe that was on 100 all the way to 500. So now when I play the animation, it plays a lot slower. And this is something I would expect through a walkthrough, I want to have it a little bit slower. So right now, you notice that the camera is kind of really jerking around because I have a lot of hard corners in here. So now we can go through here and kind of smooth everything out. And also you notice that my when I hit play, it's only playing in this bottom viewport here. It's not playing in the top viewport here. Now, in order to see it in both viewports, you need to go to time configuration and you need to turn off active viewport only. And once you do that and you play the animation, it'll play in both the bottom viewport and the top viewport. So if I'm looking through my camera right now, I notice that it's a little bit hard to see everything in my scene. So what I want to do is go to the camera and go to modify, and I want to change my field of view here. And I want to change it to something a little bit higher, like 80. So now you see the camera zooms out a bit and I have more of a field of view to focus on. So now when I go through and play the animation, now it looks a little bit better. I can see more of the rooms that I'm actually going through. So let's fix this path right here now. To fix the path, we need to go to the actual line tool. So select it on the line. Make sure I select the line. All right, the line is selected now. And I need to go to vertex mode. And I'm going to change this to a top view so I can see straight down on my scene. And I'm going to get rid of my outdoor so I don't need to see that right now. I'm going to turn off my grid. I don't need to see that right now either. And we're just going to look at the points in here and we're going to adjust it as needed when we come through here. So when it comes to this point here, there's a sharp turn right here, a slight right. I want to make this a curve so that this curves around on this line here. So with the vertex selected here in vertex mode, you're going to right click and go to smooth. And you see that it kind of makes an arc around here and it smooths the line across this path here as it gets to this point here. So now when I get to this point, I also need to smooth this. Now as you're smoothing these points out, you can move these points out a little bit farther so you can get more of a curve going on. So let's say I want my point to be starting right here. It's going to do a smooth curve around here. So I'm going to scrub this timeline and see where my camera is going. So that's a little bit smoother transition around that corner. So now it gets to this point right here and it turns really hard. So I also want to put a smooth right here. Smooth. So now this is a smooth arc into this room here. So you can see when it comes around a little bit smoother. It doesn't just jerk and turn. And also move this back a little bit. You'll have to make minor adjustments like this on the fly. And now when it goes into the room, instead of it turning hard like this, I want to smooth both of these. So I'll select both of these points and go to smooth. And just kind of move these out a little bit. Now I want to make another point in here because I want to make this a more of a arc here because right now you can see this isn't arcing very much. I want to pull this line out to maybe right here. So in order to do that, I need to add another point on this line. So if you right click and go to refine, you can click and add an extra point to the line. So right click to get out of that. Click on this point now. Now I can pull this out a bit. Now I want you to notice that once you make this, it is also already smooth because I made a point in between two points that were already using smooth, so it's just going to interpolate between those. So something like that. I have more of an arc going on here, a little bit better. Now you notice that this line is going straight through this wall here and not through the doorway, so I need to add another point in here to kind of reorient where it's going. Now this time when I clicked the point, it made a Bezier corner, and I'm going to change that to smooth. Something like that. Going on to this point, Have the camera go around, make minor adjustments. And when it gets to this point here, now I want to smooth this out. So now you can see there's a smooth transition between that line there. And the same thing again, I want to smooth both of these points out. I think this will actually do just fine. I'm going to smooth this point out here. So now we're seeing the camera go around, loop back out, smooth this corner, reorient this. I'll grab all three of these and smooth. Pull this point out a little bit. I want to move this a little bit closer because I don't want my camera too close to the walls here. So the camera comes around. There we go. I'm going to smooth this point out as well. Now I get to these points here. So I'm going to select all of these and smooth. Let's see where the camera is when it comes to here. Just going to move it back just a little bit. Move this more inward into the room. There we go. Getting some good turns out of this. Pull that out a little bit. So now it accentuates that curve there. There we go. So now we have more of a curve going around. And I want to move this point a little bit here. Now I can smooth this corner. Bring this somewhere around this area. Smooth that. So now it turns in here. Definitely need to smooth these points out here. Now it looks like I need to make more of a curve right here. So I'm going to change it up a little bit. I'm going to use a Bezier. And I'm just going to pull these handles out a little bit just so I can make this shape a little bit more of an arc here. Like so. And it goes in the garage and we'll have all of these smooth. I don't need the last point to be smooth. The last point on the line, you can leave that alone. So now it comes through, goes in the door, and it goes around the garage and stops here. Alright, so there's my camera path. Now, I also wanted my camera to actually follow the path upstairs as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another path that's going through here. I'm going to extend this path to the stairwell, and I'm going to make another path that goes to the second floor. So right now, this camera path is residing on just the first floor. So if I play through this, you can see how it's looking. Goes through. I might need to slow it down a little bit because it looks like it's still a little bit too fast going through. So then it stops there. Okay, so there's my camera path. So now I want to go and up to the second floor. So I'm going to turn on my second floor here. And now I want to be able to create a line that's based on the second floor. So I'm going to turn off the first floor just so I don't have to see it. And I'm going to turn on my default layer here where I have these little user grids where I can change the height of the actual grid. So when I create objects, it'll be at a certain height. So let's say I want to create my line at maybe this height here. So maybe if I move this up a little bit to about here, so this will be sort of like the halfway point between um, the different levels. You can see my grid ends here. So now with this selected, I'm going to activate this grid here. So now when I draw my line, it'll draw it out not on the floor, but actually at this location, this Z height. So let's go back to line here. I'm gonna go to the top view, and this is where my stairwell is right here. So I'm gonna want to start my line about here. So let's say I'll start clicking here. If my line go around like so, and we're gonna go through this room first, and we're gonna come out, view this balcony here, and come back out the room, and go in this room, turn back around and go out, and then go in this room, turn back around and go out. And now instead of going this way, I have actual door right here. So I'm gonna have my point stop here and go outside. All right, so there's my second path in here. Seeing how that's looking. All right. So now I need to actually connect my second path to my initial path. So let's take a look at doing that. I'm going to turn off this grid here. So I'm going to select the grid, right click, and activate home grid. So now the home grid is activated. Now I no longer need these grids, so I'm just going to hide these. So you can see what this did. It made the line at this height instead of making it on the floor where the other line would be. So now I can go into this line here, and this is my start position here. I'm going to move this down to where it's going to meet the other line. So I need to find the height of the other line. So let's click on that. I have 48 for the height. So I go back to this line and select this vertice here, and I'll make sure this height is 48. So it starts to go up at this point. Now I need to get the connection from here to here. So I'm going to continue this line. I'm going to turn off the second floor, and I'm just going to view my lines right now. I'm going to take this line and I'm going to add a point right here. Turn back on my first floor so I can see. And I'm going to extend this point out here to come back through the doorway. Refine. Drop that point there. Move this point out again to come through here. Refine. Add a point there. Pull the end point out again. Start right here. Refine. Add another point. Bring this point all the way to here. And this is where it's going to meet the second line at that point there. So let's take a look at this. You have the camera going through, yada yada yada. Now it's going through. Now let's take a look at this point. I need to fix this point here. Make this smooth. So when it comes back out the room, it's more of an arc shape. Need to smooth this point here. Smooth this one. There we go. And it looks like I need to make just another point in here. Make sure that is smooth, just so I can bring it around the corner here. Alright, like so. And this is where it's going to meet this new point here. So now what I need to do is I need to attach this line. So I'm going to go to attach and I'm going to click on this line here. And I need to weld this point to this point. So in order to do that, I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to fuse. I'm going to select both of these vertices, and I need to actually fuse these here. So I'm going to go to fuse to make that one point and make sure I hit weld as well. So now you can see when I select this point, it is actually together now. And I'm going to make sure this is smooth. I'm just going to move this off just a little bit. And let's see where our camera is. So when I added this extra point here, it readjusted the timeline for my camera. You can see that my camera now, when it gets to this frame here, it's still in downstairs instead of here, it was downstairs. So now once you add additions to the path, you'll see that it'll readjust this entire time range. So we definitely need to go back through and add some more time onto this. So since we have two floors now, I'm just gonna click off of the line here, click on the camera, and I'm gonna extend my timeline out again. So this time I'm gonna hold Control Alt right click and drag, and I'm gonna extend my timeline out to, let's say, 1,000. All right, and I'm gonna move this frame all the way out to 1,000. So now this slows down the camera quite a bit. There we go. So now let's take a look at where our lines are actually going. So we have this point here on the line that start to go up the stairs. So we need to lower that down just a bit and make this a smooth corner and move this around just a bit, sort of in the center of the stairwell. And when it gets to here, also I want that to be smooth. There we go. So we got a smooth transition from the bottom going up the stairwell. And now at this point, I can turn on my second floor so we can see this. And we see it gets to this point, and I can definitely smooth that out so it kind of arcs around this corner here. And I'm going to turn this into a Bezier so I can kind of change the way this corner is forming. So more of a curve right there. There we go. And now it looks like I need to open my doors for my upstairs. So I'll go through here and open this door, open this door. This one is a sliding door. Open this one. That one can stay closed. This one needs to open. And finally, this one here is going to open, and this is going to be where my outside is. So if I unhide this, you can see this is my outside area. It's just going to be where the balcony is. So this is where my camera is going to actually end up. So let's go back to the line and let's go move it so we can see where the camera is. Camera starts to go upstairs. Right here. Comes around. And now I can start adding some new points on the line. Or smoothing the point, sorry. So selecting this point here. I want to make sure that's smooth. This one is smooth as well. And this is where we're going to have to go and orient this to go outside the door. So I need to move this over just a bit. So I wanted to go outside of this door. Move that out. So now that's a pretty good arc right there. Nice curve. And it looks like I might need to make some extra points going in here. So I'll smooth both of these out. See, this makes a curve here, but I need to add another point to kind of make this come back the other direction, because I want to have this point here go back this way. So I'm going to make sure that is smooth. This one I'm going to turn to Bezier so I can pull this out, make more of an arc there. Like so. Now let's see what we have. Camera goes in the room, goes out the room, loops around the balcony. You see the outside, comes back in the room. Now this is where the next corner is, so I'll smooth that out. And we go out of the room into the next room, so I'll grab all of these points here. Well, let me click on these points right here, because right now, if I do a selection like that, I'm going to select the points that are down here as well, and I want to make sure I don't do that. So I'm just going to click on these individually and go to smooth. So the camera goes in, next room, turns around. I want to go too far in. There we go. Turns around, goes back out, curves around. Here's the next corner. We need to smooth it out. So it goes into the next room here. So make that curve in there. Let's select these vertices again. Smooth those out. That's what we have. Oh, looks like it's too close to that wall, so we need to readjust these points here. There we go. I don't want to make it too close to the wall. Something like that. Goes back out. Here's our next corner. Smooth that. And then it finally curves and goes outside. And this one, I'll make a Bezier corner so I can change this a little bit. Let's say I wanted to come and arc out here and kind of look around and stop right there. So something like that. So there's my camera path, and I'm going to take a look at how this looks now. I'm going to turn on my third floor just so I can get a better look at everything. And I'm just going to freeze everything in here. Not the camera path, but outside, the floors, all of that. So we'll just see kind of a gray look for everything. Just gonna hit play, see how it goes through the house. So it goes through the rooms. Looks like it's still a little bit too fast, so we'll have to extend the timeline out just a little bit just to readjust to the frames. But for the most part, the walkthrough is done. And now it goes in the last room, comes back out, and stops right there. So there's the camera walkthrough. So pretty much this camera walkthrough is done. Now, when you go to render this out, you're also going to have lighting and everything in here. So I'm going to go over that in the next tutorial.